Well, today I'm going to show you how to put together a couple of antennas that we've selected to use in next week's September VHF contest. We're going to use these antennas to deploy out to Woodall Mountain in North Mississippi. It's the highest point in Mississippi. We decided to set up there to run the contest this week. We wanted a couple of lightweight, easy to transport antennas, so we selected a couple of Yagis that we're going to use on the mountain there. So I'm going to show them to you and show you how they go together. Well, I've laid out the antennas here prior to construction. There's two antennas. The antenna on top is the Diamond A52HB. It's a 2-element 6-meter Yagi. Has 6 dB of forward gain. The antenna on the bottom is another Diamond antenna. It's the A44S5, a 5-element 2-meter Yagi, and it has approximately 10 dB forward gain. So these are the two antennas that we're going to use on our deployment next weekend. Both of these antennas were purchased through DX Engineering. They cost a total of $157. That included shipping, and arrived after about 2 days after I ordered them. So we're going to put them together and show you how they work. Well, we're going to start with the 6-meter beam, and you can see it's a pretty basic layout. We essentially have a short boom here. This is the whole length of the boom right there, not more than about 3.5 feet. Then we have the driven element, which is in 2 pieces but secured together via the harness that goes between the two, the phasing harness for the 2 elements. We have the elements, the reflector and driven elements. I'm sorry, the reflector and driven elements right there. And then we have the mounting hardware. So a very simple piece of hardware to put together. Looks like it's held together mostly with wing nuts and clamps. So it should go together very easy and also come apart very easy, which is what you would expect from a portable setup. I made this very simple to figure out after very brief instructions, but the instructions are pretty plain because they've got these color-coded tabs on all the parts. They have brown tags on one end of the boom that match up with the elements that have brown tags, and then they have a red tag on the other end of the boom that matches up with the elements that have red tags. So all we have to do is loosen this clamp. We've already taken the wing nut off here, and we take that off and we put the element into this little tab. They have this little tab sticking up here that fits through the hole in the element, and so we slide that over the tab, and then we do the same thing with the other element, and we screw the clamp back down on top. So we have our elements lined up. They're in the cradle and lined up with the tabs that protrude from the cradle. All we do now is take the clamp, the other half of the clamp, and put that on top. Take our wing nut, put it on, get it started, fasten that down good and tight. Alright, so there we have the, looks like the reflector in place. Now we're going to work on the driven element. Okay, with our driven element, we've essentially done the same thing. We see the red tag and the red tag, and we match up the red tag with the other half of the element, and we mount it over the tab that sits right there. Again, take the clamping part and lay it on top and screw it down. Alright, now all that's left to install is the driven element, the 2 phasing portions of the driven element. So now we're going to attach the driven element. It simply consists of 2 pieces that are phased together to provide the driven RF for the antenna. So what it does is, again, a very simple way to put it together. You have a red tag on the front element and a red tag on the boom on the end it goes on. It's got this little nipple right here that sticks out. You can see it right there, and that nipple goes in that hole. So it makes you put it on the correct way so it's facing the correct direction so you can't mess that up. And then again, it's just a wing nut underneath that you screw into the body of the driven element, and that holds it in place. So I'll go ahead and do that and show you what it looks like. Here are the 2 parts of the driven element, the gamma match that's in place now, the rear and the forward, and the phasing harness that goes between them. You can see the SO239 that's on the bottom there is where you feed the antenna. Got the wing nut on both ends. Make sure those are tightened down good. And really this antenna comes apart very easily. In transporting this, it's just 4 wing nuts that hold the whole thing together. And actually, you probably just take the 2 off for the elements, take the elements apart, and leave the gamma match on the boom and transport this thing essentially in about 5 pieces. Very portable setup. All left to do is attach these element fasteners. These are the shorting elements that go between the driven gamma match element and the reflector and director. We've got one for each end. So I'm going to show you how those go. Again, Diamond kind of thought this out and made this easy. If you can notice, they put a little knurled, they kind of marked up or scuffed up, put a knurled mark on the gamma match so that you know exactly where to put this thing. And the clamp just slips over it and fits to connect the two, so you've got it in the right place to start off with. And obviously, you can adjust that for SWR as you go, but this will give you a good starting point. And they say it should be really close to the best possible match if you just install it right there. Okay, so we've installed the shorting clamp, and you can see they've even put little ridges around the bolt to hold it in place, the bolt head to hold it in place, so it only takes one hand to attach it. We've slid it over the little knurled marking there on the gamma, and just tighten that dude down, and then we'll go and do it on the other side, on the other element, and we should be ready to get this thing on a boom and on a pole and mount it. To show you how the boom assembly goes together, I believe this antenna accommodates a 2-inch mast, at least 1.5 inches looks like. But this will essentially be the configuration. We'll have the U-bolt that will slide through both the cap here on the left side of the boom. On the other side of the boom, we'll have the clamp, the main part of the clamp, which will fit right here. And then that will be used to pin the U-bolt, which you see right there, against this clamp. And one thing I've noticed is they've even left this the clip here notched so that you don't have to take both wing nuts off to get it off the boom. You just take one side off, and it just pivots on that side. You just pop this in loose, and you don't have to take both wing nuts loose to get it off your mast. So very easy to again move. Here's the assembled mast mount, and you can see all the clamps come together with the cap on this and the U-bolt coming through, and then the clamp for the mast. And again, here's that little nifty feature where they had the notched clip there, or clamp, that you don't even have to, you just have to loosen that, the clip, and you don't have to take either wing nut off. The whole thing comes off, and then it's you're good to take it off the boom at that point, so you save you having to take the whole thing apart to get it off the mast. So very handy feature there. Alright, so now we're moving on to the 2-meter Yagi that we got, the 5-element A144 S5 from Diamond. And it looks like it's only in 2 pieces when you take it together, but really all the elements are pre-mounted on the boom except for the driven element, the gamma match. And so all we have to do, I think, is just kind of twist those elements to the right position on the boom and tighten some stuff down. So it looks pretty easy as well. The first step is to loosen these wing nuts right here along the boom, and that'll allow us to rotate the elements out to their correct position along the boom. It's like you got to do quite a bit of loosening to get these clamps to clear so the elements will twist out. So let's do that real quick. Loosen these wing nuts, and then we'll be able to flip these out into position. There we go. I'm guessing. Yeah, the instructions are really minimal with this thing, but it's kind of intuitive as to what happens. It's like you just slide these. You've got a center mark right there, and you slide this to the center of the clamp. It's got a little opening there on the clamp that you can look and see where your center mark is when you get it in the middle. And then we just tighten that wing nut down back there, and we've got an element that's in place. And we do that for the rest of them. And there we go. A completed major part of the antenna. 4 wing nuts, and that's it. All you have to do is mount the driven element, and you can see it's very much just one piece. There is no shorting bar. Apparently this antenna works by just parasitic interaction between the driven element and the reflector and director elements. So it just bolts directly to the boom here. You can see we've got the, just like on the 6-meter beam, we have the nipple that sticks up there, and it goes in that hole, and the bolt hole there lines up with the bolt that's sticking through the boom, and you just line those both up and screw down the wing nut on the bottom, and that attaches the driven element to the boom. So I'll show you what that looks like when we get done here. Okay, so there you have it. That's the completed antenna right there on the A44S5 2-meter antenna from Diamond. Very easy to put together. Most of the hardware was already in place. All we had to do was loosen and position some elements, and then tighten the driven element in, and it's ready to go. Again, very nice antenna, easy set up and take down for portable operations, I believe. We're going to put it on the mast out here and check the SWR and see how it performs, how it will perform in the type of setting we're going to have it in. Alright, so here we have the final version of the stack as it's going to be up on the mountain next Saturday. You see the 2-element 6-meter beam on the bottom, the 432 homebrew 7-element, and the 5-element 2-meter beam at the top. Had to, normally you'd have the 432 at the top, but the clamp for the 2-meter beam was not big enough to fit over the main part of the mast, so it had to clamp to the top on the telescoping portion of the mast pieces, where it's a little thinner, and that's why we got the 432 in the middle. But hey, it'll work, and SWR seems to be good on all antennas. They're all less than 1.5 to 1 all the way across the band, and should be good to go, and complete with the ladder support, which seems to be working pretty well. The top of that mast is at 16 feet. That's 4 sections of mast. And we may try to go 1 section higher and guide off. We'll just play it by ear, see how it is in the construction process. It gets a little unwieldy putting those pieces together when all the antennas are mounted to the mast itself. So we'll see how it goes. But anyway, that's the finished product, and hopefully you guys will be listening for us. Will be able to make some contacts next week on the VHF contest.